Is he not playing his guitar now?
Mike, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Board of Supervisors, we will call the organizational meeting of the January 4th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order. And I would ask that the invocation be given by Supervisor Tim Tatum, if we would stand, please, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Lori Smith.
Pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, just thanking you for this opportunity that we have to serve the citizens of Franklin County. And Father, we just thank you for all the blessings you give to us. Lord, we just come to you and just ask you for wisdom and leadership throughout this meeting and throughout this upcoming year. I pray that all the decisions that we make will be blessed and be the following of your leadership and your guidance. As we go through the remainder of this meeting, I pray that we'll just seek to do your will. And all these that we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members of the board, I think all members are present. We also have Supervisor Mike Carter, who's joined us remotely via teleconference this afternoon. Our first item of business is we would open the floor for nominations for chairman for the Board of Supervisors for 2020-21. And of course, I would ask the county attorney if he would, I'll hand the gavel over to him at this point to lead us through that work.
Thank you, Chris. I'm sure. Thank you. All right. We will open the floor and take nominations at this time for a member to serve as chairman of the board for this year. Yes, Mr. Tatum.
I would like to nominate Mr. Ronnie Thompson for chairman.
Are there any other nominations? Is there a motion that the nominations be closed?
I make a motion, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Now, all in favor of electing Mr. Thompson as the chairman for 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Have you got to give it to him so soon?
What'd he say? Thank y'all very much for your vote of confidence. I appreciate it, and I know that you'll help me through this, and I thank you for it. I guess my first thing I'll do is, well, after thanking you there, is open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Tim Tatum.
I was going to suggest Tim. Yep.
So that's the second.
Yes, that's the same.
All right, do we have any other nominations for vice chair? No other nominations. I move that the floor be closed. Any questions? All in favor of Mr. Tatum for vice chair by an uplifted right hand? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Congratulations, Tim.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have a comment I'd like to share.
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank Mr. Mitchell for this past year, Mr. Leland Mitchell for this past year and his leadership as chairman of this board. It has been a tough year at times with a lot going on. With none of us foresaw the issues of the statue being as big an issue as it became, and I just want to say I appreciate your leadership through that, and that you know, we just appreciate all you did. And you know, Mr. Thompson has some big shoes to fill, And our selection of him is not a reflection, not a negative reflection on you in any way. It's just, we just figured we would spread the duty around and let him have to face some of those headaches that I'm sure you've had to put up with over the last year. But I just want to say thank you, Leland, for your service and your leadership over the past year.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
I was going to ask if you had anything you wanted to say.
I certainly want to thank each member of the board for your time and your efforts and your support for me during the last year. And I appreciate it very much. And to staff, we couldn't do it without you. And so, thanks to each of you, and Jim, you too.
Well, I'd like to give him an ovation because he did have a tough year. It was nice tough, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much, because it's been a tough year, no doubt about it, especially putting up with somebody like me. But anyway, I just want to let you know that we really appreciate you, and what you did.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Leland, I've shared with you many times how much I've appreciated your wisdom and your leadership, and this board's been better for it. And you, as everyone has said, you have certainly had to navigate some unprecedented times, and you've done it with grace, and you've done it with heavy commitment to the county, and so I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed having you as our chairman, Leland. It, like everyone said, it's been a tough year, but the tough years make the next ones, prepares you for the even more tough years. I see good things for 2021, and appreciate everybody having patience with me and everything I've been dealing with, and look forward to this year and keeping the county moving forward. And thank you. Sit back and relax.
Thanks again, Lee.
Yes, sir.
Everything. Appreciate you.
Mr. Thompson, could I make a comment, please?
Yes, sir.
First of all, congratulations to you and Tim. I look forward to working with you and serving with you. Leland, I want to thank you for your guidance in my term on the board and your friendship. I've come to know you, and I think you've done a terrific job, and I look forward to sitting beside you moving forward in the coming year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When he spoke up, I was looking around to see where that was going. I forgot.
Where is Mike?
Where's that coming from? Thank you,
Yeah, I'm
Mike.
hiding in the ceiling.
Yeah, the voice from above. Thanks, Mike.
That's right.
All right. Our next matter of business will be attachment 1 on your agenda, and that's the setting of meeting dates and times. All of these, as I read them, are for the, just like it has always been, for the third Tuesday of each month and starting at 1:30. So, Madam Clerk, do you want us to vote on each one of these individually, or can we vote on them as a package?
I believe you can vote on the entire 2021 year as one vote.
Okay. Any questions about the meeting dates? Any comments or anything?
Let me look at something real quick.
Mr. Carter, can you hear okay?
Yes, sir. I don't have any problem with these dates.
These are our board dates?
Yes.
These aren't
The
work session
regular
dates?
board meeting, yes, the third, it's just like it has been. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, moving on to the next one, item 2 is the county employees' holidays. What did I do, miss one here?
Work session.
Chairman Thompson,
Yes, ma'am.
can we take a formal vote? We need a motion and a second.
Oh, on each one,
Yeah.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the general meeting, business meeting
A second.
schedule.
All right, that's for the proposed meeting dates, correct?
Yes.
All right, all in favor signify by an aye vote.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I'm using the wrong one here.
You're in good shape.
I thought this said holidays.
No, this is work session.
All right, for the proposed work session dates for 2021. Any comments or questions on this?
These are not budget work sessions, are they?
Say that again?
Are these our budget work session dates? So that's a whole nother set of work sessions.
If they're needed, right?
This is the meetings that we were working towards, so we're not so overwhelmed on our meeting days. Okay, gotcha.
Mr.
These meetings are as needed, right?
On an as-needed category is there. And I was thinking ever since this was brought up, I have a couple things that just to put out there for the board to think about. I was thinking that for purposes for staff and for board, if we had to have an extra meeting that particular month, if we done it on Monday before the meeting, that we could do that and everything would be right there together. And that if, for example, if one of the board members or staff decided they wanted to go on vacation, you know that your meetings are gonna be on that third week and everything's there and it won't be out, and then it would just for that. I like to hear y'all's thoughts on that. And we could also have another thing that I was thinking, and I had those wrote down too, that if we have that extra meeting that month and we've got to have a broadband meeting, if we can work it in there, that might be a good place to do that. And that, it sort of keeps everything, we know that up front. How does everybody on the board?
It sounds good to me. Is that going to work good for staff?
I was gonna look at it, see what y'all said, and then put staff in on that and get their thoughts on that too.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like to me between the work session dates and the broadband dates, it looks like they are on the same day, but different times. So the broadband would meet at 3, and potential work session would be at 3:30. So you're suggesting to move it to Mondays versus Tuesdays?
Right, Monday,
Before the board meeting?
yes, the third Monday of each month. And that way, it keeps everything, it's like if you want to go on vacation, staff's got to work their vacations around that as well. And everything can be done, that one, if we can keep it all there, that one, just a thought that I was having there on that.
Works for me.
Mr. Carter?
Yes, I was listening to what you said, and speaking for myself, I think if we could move these to Monday before our board meeting, it would keep everything fresh in our mind, and it would keep it a little more condensed so we're not spreading ourselves out over a 2-week period. I think the Monday before the board meeting would be a good idea.
I'm in support of it, Mr. Chairman, as long as there are no staff conflicts with standing meetings. Mr. Whitlow?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Smith. To your question, I don't necessarily think there are any staff conflicts, the third Mondays of the month. To answer your question, in regard to Mr. Tatum's question, regarding staff and Mr. Thompson, your concern about, and we appreciate that in terms of scheduling and times and vacation times and so forth. Certainly the third Monday and the third Tuesdays can work for us. I mean, we can make that work. One consideration, certainly that's the pleasure of the board, whether you wanted to, have the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday. They only thought that was just a proposed date. We were not, married to that first week of the month per se. You may, certainly this can be changed. If the board felt that that was not working, we can always change that back to the first, Tuesday. Our thought on the Broadband Authority and another meeting date, because I think that was mentioned at the last meeting, whereby the board can come in fresh and not have the Broadband Authority meeting. If you have that Broadband Authority meeting on the Monday at 3:30 for a work session, with the idea of being finished by 5 or so, hopefully you can go home and rest and be restful for your Tuesday meeting beginning at 1:30. And I think as staff, and I'm looking at staff, I think, at least from my perspective, I think that's doable.
Okay, any more comment? Any more thoughts, your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. If it's workable, I think that's what needs to be done. I really do.
Keeps it all condensed there.
How about Jim? Is it going to be, is it going to be an issue for you for?
It's still, though, there's really, in my thoughts, the rest of you give me your thoughts, there's not really anything gonna change before, other than it's a meeting if we need it. It doesn't mean we're gonna have it.
Right.
I mean, we all know how it is at budget time. It's not gonna be that way during budget time, cause you're gonna add a couple more. We all know that, but these meetings are here, and it sure would cut out a lot of, maybe condense these meetings down a little bit. So I think everybody, so if we can get a motion on that change there in a second.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just add, depending on how the calendar falls, that it would always be the Monday prior to the Tuesday board meeting.
Yes.
Sometimes the third Monday may be different than the, other day of the month.
And the rules are still the same. If it's a holiday, then
Correct.
staff can come up with the holiday change and
Mr.
things of
Chairman?
that nature, how we can do that. The rules would be the same. It's just, instead of, first Monday, these are pretty much everything's done on it.
Are you looking for a
Monday
motion?
and Tuesday.
You need a motion on that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we set the Monday before our monthly board meeting as our work session, day and / broadband meeting as needed. And that works out to be the third Monday, great. But that's my motion, that we go ahead and put that in play.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Any comments? Any more comments or anything? Ready for the question? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any opposed by the same sign? Nay. Carries forward.
Mr. Chairman, we can get the revised Broadband Meeting Authority dates and times and the revised work session dates out to the board in a packet. So you'll have that.
Yes, sir. Do we need to do this again since Mr. Tatum included that in his motion for the broadband?
I believe I have the broadband authority included in that motion, if Mr. Gwen is okay with that.
Okay.
I think ultimately, though, you're gonna have something that's like this at your next meeting. Just put it on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
With the additions
Okay.
or corrections.
And the report was just voted on.
Sir.
All right, now the next one that I have standing there is the proposed holidays for 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the proposed holidays for 2021.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Any comments?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just see the dates for these holidays. Can you tell me which each one of those is for, Chris? There's some that are obvious, of course.
Yes, Mr. Mitchell. If, on the second page of your packet, you'll have a column
Next
on
page.
Here's the calendar.
the calendar there. And those are the state Commonwealth of Virginia holidays for 2021.
Yeah, they're all the same holidays that the state adopts every year.
Does that answer your question, Mr.?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. I should have already done this. I apologize.
That's okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Would some of these Monday dates, holiday conflict with our work session dates?
I think it could. That's where we made the mention a while ago. If the holiday come in there, then we would go back to the original rules that were set up in the beginning here for anything that come on Monday, how it would fall. And staff could rearrange those. It might be a conflict on.
In fact, I think the first two holidays adopted would conflict with our
We may not even,
work sessions.
may not even have to have a work session then.
I see there's 8 hours additional holiday time on December 23rd. What day is December, is Christmas on? It's on a Saturday.
Sorry, say that again, please.
I see the 8 additional holiday hours for the day before Christmas Eve.
December 23rd.
No, go ahead, my door's open.
The offices will be closed that day as well.
Mr.
Christmas on Saturday, I get it, yeah.
Mr. Whitlow, if you will, explain that again. There's a couple holidays that are in there that can be moved around at staff's discretion to pick up on things of that nature on Saturday and everything. And that happens to be one of them there that comes back to where we can call.
On the work sessions, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Wherever there is a holiday that may conflict with one of the scheduled work sessions, that can be rescheduled to a different day, either the prior week or the week of the board meeting.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments? We need a motion for this.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 2021 holiday schedule as submitted.
Second.
Motion first and second. All in favor? Saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried forward. All right, the next one, are the adoption of the, board rules and procedures. Everybody had a chance to look through those and to read through them.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a
And this is the
question.
time that we'll,
On, it's under special meetings, actually, public comment, item number 6, where it says, "Public comments gives the citizens or property owners of the county an opportunity to address the board on matters appropriate to the responsibilities of the board." Mr. Gwynn, can you give some clarification on that? I think I have a pretty good idea, but I want to make sure that I'm right on that. That means if it's something that the board has no control over, is that something that the board can opt out of hearing, or what's your feeling on?
I think you probably can. And then the decision would have to be whether allowing somebody to talk for 3 minutes on something, whether that's the best thing to do or not. But yeah, generally you expect the public comment to have something to do either with the board's work or something with the county. I mean, it may very well be that somebody comes in and wants to talk about something with the county that you can't fix. But that's something that they should still, I think, from the First Amendment standpoint, be allowed to talk about.
And I had also had a question on the times that we had for each speaker would be given 3 minutes, but I also saw it where it's, and I don't see the line right now, see if I can find it, where it said that there'd be let's see, it said, if the number of individuals on the sign-up sheet would exceed the allotted 15-minute time frame, the chairman has the latitude to place a shorter time limit. So does that mean that our public hearings that we have are going to have a 15-minute time allotment?
No, not your public hearings.
Okay. This for this public comment, that's what I meant. Our public comment time will have a 15-minute time allotment. Okay.
Well, I think that's what it's been on. I don't think Madeline has changed that.
Okay.
I just don't think that we've
We
ever
just haven't
enforced
been
it.
going by it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, is that 15 minutes? I was under the impression that that 15 minutes is an allocation for somebody that had indicated they had a presentation that would move beyond. Is that not right? Or is 15 minutes asked for specifically?
The question is, and my response to that, I'll do that in a minute, but the question is, I understand it, that an individual can ask for 15 minutes to present a presentation to the board.
But that's where the 15 minutes, it's not clear in this language that 15-minute allocation is relative to pre-scheduled presentation purposes, rather than just a 3 to 15-minute time allocation for public comment.
My understanding from last year is a 15-minute time period maximum at the beginning of the afternoon period. And then if there are speakers that go beyond that or that have signed up or need more time, they would come to the end of the business day, as has been occurring this past year, to provide further comment. In terms of individuals presenting, whether it's a business or a citizen, a presentation and so forth, that typically is handled at agenda setting review with the chairman and the vice chairman of a matter of interest to the board, or if the board would like to see an agenda item, of course, that's decided at the month prior to your board meeting, as I understand. In terms of what's been our practice, that may need some clarification in the document here.
Mr. Chairman, the way I participate, the way I read it is that you can't have over 5 people speaking. You know, you got a total of 15 minutes.
That's how I read it.
You got a total of 15 minutes, 5 people, 3 people, 15 minutes.
3 for 5 and 15, and if it's more than the 15 minute, they can get together and get one spokesman that could speak for, if they're all like-minded. Correct? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, what I was saying was you got your 5 people, 3 minutes. The way I read it is they got 15
Or the
minutes for
chairman.
5 people to say what they got to say.
Chairman has the latitude to lower the time from 3 to 1 or 2 minutes to
2
allow
minutes.
more people to speak if he so chooses, but it can't go over 15 minutes total is the way I read it.
That's
Well,
how
I mean, I know
understand it.
this year, Mr. Mitchell can probably say, but I think he's granted prerogative to go beyond the 15 minutes at numerous meetings, and that in my, I think that should be under the discretion of the chair if you move past 15 minutes, but I think that needs to, again, we need some clarification in the language here, I believe.
And I also believe that they should tell who they are, if they're property owners or citizens, before the meeting. Because we shouldn't have to stand here and listen and prod them to find out, well, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? I mean, our time is just as important as anybody else's. And I think when they sign up, they should prove that they're a citizen or a property owner in Franklin County, instead of going through the process of get them when they come up to the microphone.
Mr. Mitchell, you wanted to say something?
I understand exactly how Mr. Cundiff,
Okay.
but I understand, this year, the chairman's discretion, he's allowed more people to speak. I guess it's ultimately up to you if you want to allow more than 15 minutes for public comment. Under public comment, I don't think we should allow people to phone in for public comment anymore. I didn't like that.
All right. All right, I've got a couple things that I wrote down.
There is an inherent contradiction in your, because it says that you'll have a 15-minute period during and then for time afterwards. Well, 15 minutes is, as Tommy says, taken up by 5 people at 3 minutes.
Right.
So you've got an ambiguity in it. And as I understand it, what the board did for the past year in addressing the ambiguity was to have the 15 minutes during the meeting because I think, Mr. Thompson, as you pointed out, we didn't want to get stuck in an hour and a half of public comment and throw off the rest of the time business part of it. So we wanted to be able to keep to that, but at the same time, wanted to allow people to speak, and we would allow them to do it at the end of the regular meeting, whether it either, if we have public hearings, it'll be in the evening. If not, it'll be at 5:30 or 6 o'clock or whatever. But there is an inherent conflict in that. I mean, you do say that there is available time at the end of the meeting, but you don't allow, by saying the 5 and the 3 minutes, that conflict. And it's, that's how you've dealt with it in the past. We would be happy to rewrite it, with clear direction from the board.
I would like to see it, and I made some notes when I was reading through that, like I see a lot of the others did. I wrote on there, for my part, I'd like to see no public comments at the 1:30 part. Just have recognition if somebody had something, and all of the public comments go at the end of the meeting. That would eliminate what we're talking about here together. They get their 3 minutes at the end of the meeting, and it's like somebody else, I didn't write that down, that brought it out a while ago. No more telephone. If they want to do it on an email, they can send it in, and Ms. Selfchick can read the email, because we don't know who that is on the telephone. And she can make that email that come in as part of public record for there, but all of the public comment go at the end of the meeting. And that would do away with this 15 minutes and everything. If we got a recognition or an award to give somebody, we can save that for right there, and that would do away with that problem altogether. And as far, and the other thing, two other things I've got written down here to address the board, and I don't know if we can do this or not. I think they must be a voting age, be of age to vote. And I also think that when they sign up, there needs to be a sign-up sheet that Ms. Selfchick has, and they need to give her ID of where they have live and have residence in Franklin County.
Agree with that. As far as the age, I'm not okay with that. I mean, if
My thing, and the reason I put that in there, my thing about the age part, the majority of the ones underage are just parroting or expressing their parents' thoughts anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I might go back a minute. I was thinking the intent was we allowed 15 minutes total. And this doesn't read that for public speaking before the board meeting. And that was a 15-minute total for ever how many people came. But I could be mistaken.
I wouldn't argue that, Mr. Mitchell. I would agree with you that the intent probably was 15 minutes, but we have created an ambiguity by having having a 15-minute period during the 1:30 meeting and then saying in our rules that we also have an opportunity at the end of the meeting.
Any other comment?
Well, as far as public comment at the beginning of the meeting, I'm gonna use Daphne Tilley, for example, when she came in and presented about Help Save the Next Girl. I mean, I like when they're representing a large group like that. Are you talking about no public comment at all? Are you talking about like the end of our meetings have been individual people speaking on something?
No, I think we have to have public comment.
Yeah,
We have no choice into that.
absolutely.
But I think we owe our citizens that even though it is backed up by law. I think we have to have.
But you want to get rid of it at the beginning of the meeting.
But it's we have public comment at the end of the meeting when the business is done, and then it helps keep our agenda moving. We know that folks come in here with the time and it can get out of whack. That's why we do it at the end of our meeting so that we're not,
And no restriction.
well, it'll be the 3 minute
3 minutes, yeah.
the 3 minute, but it'll be open. And if we've got anybody that we want to give out an award or a thank you or a pat on the back to, we can do that at the very beginning of the comments so they don't have to sit here the whole time. But for the public comments, that's at the end of our meeting.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes, ma'am.
The concern that I've got with doing it after the public hearings, if we have a string of public hearings or if we have some contested applications that we're dealing with and that goes on for hours, to ask the citizens to be here at 9 o'clock or something like that, I think is unrealistic. I think having 2 public comment periods is difficult, hard to manage, and we're seeing why. I think that, for me, it would make more sense for us to do a public comment after the 1:30 meeting and leave it at that. I just worry about the lateness of the hour doing it at the end of the evening, because those public hearing, that they can last a long time.
Well,
But it would be, if we did that, now, playing devil's advocate, if we did that, not knowing how long the public comment was gonna be for, and cut it off, how could staff come up with the agenda for the rest of our meeting?
Well, you would do your public comment at the end of your business agenda. Or either, I've seen it done both ways. I've seen it done at the beginning and I've seen it done at the end. But if you do it after all your business, and especially since we're not trying to jam a work session in between the public hearings and the business meeting, we could just do public hearing then.
would that put it in like the sometimes 3-4 o'clock time frame?
Yeah.
So when we had this meeting last year, the whole idea of us having public comment in the evening is so people could come speak when they're not at work.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I think there are options for sure.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Ms. Smith that if we limit it to 15 minutes, the first of the meeting, and stick to it, and Madeline goes ahead and approves them, make sure they can speak, they are citizens of the county, and they're also property owners, then I think that will sort of set things moving, knowing that we have a time limit of 15 minutes. And I think, like you said, some elderly people might want to come up and speak, and, they want to be there at the first of the meeting. And I think we as supervisors have a responsibility to anybody that wants to speak, especially, like I said, the first part of the meeting, we done limited to 15 minutes, 5 people. We stick to that strictly. And like I said, Madeline, go ahead and make sure the citizens and property owners, I think we can breeze through it. I think we can.
Well, Mr.
I don't think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't think you can do 5 people in 15 minutes. Because if you give them 3 minutes each time they come up,
Well, that's true.
identify themselves,
That's true.
we're talking a good
I agree
20,
with you.
20-plus minutes by the time they come up to 25. But, we can, that's what we're doing, is setting the rules here, and we can set them ever what you all have, ever how you want to do them.
From a legal standpoint, I would be concerned about how you choose which 5 if you have more than 5.
In the beginning,
Yes.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
yes, ma'am.
I am very concerned about any perception even, that we're limiting or we're trying to scrutinize public comment. That is a slippery slope. It's one we don't want to be on. I think the chair has a role in managing time. I think if we have an allegation of time per speaker and then let the chair manage, the time, that to me, Mr. Gwynn, I worry about any perception of limiting public comment under statute.
But understandably. And the 2 problems that you have is you have a statutory requirement now to allow it.
Right.
And then you have the First Amendment considerations, once you have allowed it, as far as discriminating among and between speech and the like. So it's a, you know, that's why I didn't want to be as narrow as I think, Tim, you wanted me to be on what they can talk about, but I worry about it from a First
Well,
Amendment
I was
standpoint.
just wondering why we even had that in there.
We haven't been directed to take it out.
Okay.
You know, these rules haven't, they just roll over unless we're told to change them. We don't take it upon ourselves to rewrite them. It's
No.
the boards.
Just-
Yeah,
yeah.
and I haven't noticed it because you tell, I probably just breezed over this one in the years past, but it just caught my attention the other day when I was reading over it, and I was like, why do we even have that 15-minute allocation in there?
Well, I think I understand that.
Okay,
Best I can tell, this board has never distinguished between public comment and people who ask to be on the agenda.
right.
And you could do that. In other words, when the lady with the Save the Next Girl comes up, should be somebody who gets on the agenda and gives her presentation as opposed to somebody who's considered public comment.
I withdraw that comment, Mr. Chairman. I think he's right.
I mean, that's why I brought up
That
the
would-
15-minute thing.
Yeah.
It
and
makes,
And if you managed it saying, okay, we're gonna have people who wanna get on the agenda to do something, have the 15 minutes, and then you can allocate that as you wish, that still means you have to have a time for public comment, which is sort of the unscripted, public gets an opportunity to address the elected officials. Where you put that is obviously the board's decision.
Well,
That's-
go ahead, excuse me.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. That's the way I think that the public comment is just any individual sporadically can come up and request their 3 minutes. The lady with the, no child, any girl,
Leave no
that
child.
was an agenda item, and she specifically asked for the 15 minutes or the self-check
Right.
sets based upon the rules. That's what I've always thought that was
You're right.
for.
It was an agenda item. I'm sorry.
And that gives you an
mean, that's-
opportunity
Sorry?
that gives you an opportunity to manage your time. I mean, if she says, I really want to talk to you in August, and you've got a full vote in August and say, please come back in September, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you get to manage how you do these things when people are asking to be on the agenda. The public comment's a little different.
Well, like I said, a lot of authority falls with the chairman too. If chairman can stop it or, I mean, I've been in meetings where my brother stopped it. And, you know,
But there
if
wasn't,
it get repetitious, then you need to stop it, that's what I'm trying to say.
well, I'm with you. But you got to be careful. There's a fine line to walk and, you know, between violating the state statute that says you got to allow it,
Right.
which only came into existence this past year, and making sure that you're not stepping on any First Amendment rights either. So, yeah, I agree it can be managed. And, you know, to be honest with you, I've been in a lot of Board of Supervisors meetings, and it's real easy to say it's easy to be managed. It ain't easy to be managed.
No.
Mr. Chairman, what I might recommend for the board's discretion is that we strike 15-minute, the time limit, 15 minutes, strike that, and that each speaker that signs up or wishes to be heard during public comment, they be allocated 3 minutes to do so. And that public comment period will be at the end of our business agenda at the 1:30 meeting. And that if you are making a presentation, that you do so by requesting to be placed on the agenda through the clerk's office at least 1 week prior to the business meeting for an allocation of 15 minutes or less.
Mr. Chairman, I have a statement, if that's all right.
Yes, sir.
And would that include, Mrs. Smith, that someone who is going to ask to be on the agenda would give you what they plan on presenting?
You know, I've seen it done many ways, as I'm sure you have. Typically, what I've always observed is that when they come to the podium, they'll pass out a copy of their presentation. Again, I worry about any perception of scrutinizing their presentation ahead of time.
Well, and I understand that, and obviously there's a broad swath that the First Amendment covers, but there is stuff outside the First Amendment. And if somebody is gonna make a presentation that would be offensive or whatever, we would like to have something ahead of time to know,
That's true.
you know, what it is. So
That's
if-
true.
If nothing else, at least a subject matter or,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
get on the agenda.
Yeah. I mean, Madeline could have some type of template form of questions that she would ask a presenter to screen the request.
Because getting someone who's gonna stand up and, you know, vow and foul and that sort of thing, we're not, you know. we
Right.
Mr. Chairman, when I was running for this position, I heard it over and over and over again that not having public comment after 5 o'clock in the workday, most people can't get off work to come speak to their supervisor, which is why I thought we voted to have public comment at the end of our meeting, at least after 5 o'clock, is what we voted on January of last year. I can't support that. I would like public comment to stay where our citizens get off work and they can come talk to their supervisor. I think that's really important for us to know what's going on and know how people feel and let us know things that we're unaware of. And I would really like to see public comment stay, because if we do it at the end of the business meeting, that's going to put it in that 4 o'clock time frame, before dinner, before public hearing. So basically, we get done with public hearing, we go home, which would be great. But when I was running, this was a big, big, big issue in the county that people couldn't come in and just talk to their supervisors. I know we've had a lot of people yelling and screaming and calling us bad names, but that's their time to come in and talk to us, and I think we should respect that.
Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman,
are we to the place that could make a motion?
I don't think we're at that place right now because
Okay.
there's still a lot of comment going on.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to share that I agree with what Mr. Mitchell said. I think that our public comment needs to be set at a time that our working people have time to get off work and come and speak their piece. And I understand what Mr. Thompson said about having an age limit, but I have to disagree. I can't agree with that for one main reason is I like to encourage our young people to take part in their local government. Even though they can't vote, it gives them a chance to take part and see how things work on the local level. And, you know, I know the young lady that you're speaking about, and we all know she's echoing the sentiments from her parents, but it just thrills me to see her come up here. Yeah. And I enjoy seeing the youngsters come up and have that time. And but I understand what Mr. Thompson said, that they're echoing their parents. But I do like affording them that time to take part in the process, because
Yeah, that young lady inspired me for our diversity and inclusion committee.
They're our future, and you know, we want them to know that they belong and that they do take part. But I do agree with Mr. Mitchell that I think that our public comment time, I don't have a problem with taking it off of the first of the meeting, like Mr. Thompson said, so that we can get an agenda, get it flowing, get through our business part of the day, and then take care of, if we have to have a short work session or something, or closed session after that and before our evening session. But I think we need to keep the time allocated for the people to come in that can get off work and be here.
Well, Mr. Chairman, an option would be to do it at 6 o'clock.
That's exactly, that, I was gonna bring that up.
Okay.
We need to, even if we don't have any, public hearings for, zoning and things, we still know at 6 o'clock, we're gonna have to come back for public comments, correct?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as
Yeah,
far
as long as it's
as
after 5 o'clock, I'm good.
Huh?
As long as it's after 5 o'clock, I'm good.
I think we're gonna have to stick to the 6 o'clock because
But I'm good with you. Like, I like your idea to just scrap it at the beginning of the meeting. That way we can get on business and get done and
get
move
it,
on.
and keep it that way. I think we're gonna have to we know that on our business meeting day, we're gonna have to be here at least 6 o'clock or after, because we're gonna have to have, where we having public comment at the end of the, public hearings, that's gonna be at the last, and we've gotta advertise it at 6 o'clock, do we not? Because that's when we're having that, and unless, I guess, let me ask you a question. Let me ask this question to staff on behalf of all of us. If we know that we're not having public comments, from planning and zoning, that we've got to not to do anything, and we know that, can we put in our announcement for our board meeting that public comment will be at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock? Can we do that?
Yeah, you can.
Because we know that sometimes at the end of our meetings, we don't always have public hearings.
That way we eat dinner and go home.
Exactly. I mean, we can maybe leave a little, here lately, we're not gonna get out much before that anyway, but just in case, on the offside, can we cover our bases and say,
Well, our public hearings are required to start at 6.
yes, sir, at 6?
And if we don't have any, then you've got to make a decision as to whether you want to have your public comment at 6 o'clock.
Well, I think we do I think we're hearing that from everybody, that we all are in agreement that we've got to have a public comments.
At
So
6.
regardless of what's on the agenda, the last item of business is going to be public comment.
Yes, sir. Correct?
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm hearing from
Well,
everybody.
say that again, Jim?
Regardless of what's on the agenda, the last item of business on the agenda is going to be public comment.
That's not what I'm hearing.
All right, if we don't have any public hearings, then the last thing we have is public comment.
Correct.
If we have public hearings, the last thing we have is public comment.
Comments.
We just have it later.
But,
Okay.
but
fair
the
enough.
first of the meeting, we still having public comments.
No.
No.
No, at the first of the meeting,
If somebody asks to be on the agenda for something, we consider that.
or if we're gonna do, recognitions, give an award and stuff.
You would do that maybe at the top of the business
We do
agenda.
that anyway.
So we're doing away with public comments first of the meeting. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I hear. That's what y'all are saying, not me.
Well, I was raised up, you take a good with the bad with the good. And to me, I'd rather have public comment than first of the meeting. But that's me. Because like I said, elderly people want to get out. They don't want to hang around here until 6 o'clock to talk or speak or whatever. And that's just my opinion.
So you're saying you want to keep the 15 minutes, Mr. Cuniff, at the beginning of the meeting, where you'd have a total of 5 speakers total, no more than 5?
Do what now? I can't understand. I'm sorry. I apologize.
The 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting would be 3 minutes per person.
Yeah.
So no more than 5 people could have public comment at the beginning of our meetings.
I go with that. That still opened up to people, the senior citizens or whatever, who could speak at that time. That's what I thought was going to do, to be honest with you.
And still have public
And then we're
comment
going
at
to
the
put
end.
public comment on the very tail end. I thought we was going to do this first part too, like we've normally been doing.
Yeah, I'll ride your coattail on that one.
All right, I need some guidance here on how we do that. If it's 10 people, who do we pick the 3 to speak?
You don't pick. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
How do we do it?
Well, didn't Jim say you can tell them that, hey, our thing's full, you can come back to next month's meeting? Isn't that what I heard?
All I cautioned against was how you decide who the 5 are.
I think we do away with the 15-minute.
I do too.
Block, and I think if we're gonna have if we're gonna have a public comment at the beginning of the meeting, we have it. And when we have it, understanding that it'll be managed by the chair accordingly. And, there's a balance here. We're trying to meet the demands of people that work, but we also have the balance of our elderly and disabled population, especially after the time changes and coming out at dark and at night. And so where is the happy medium? The happy medium to me seems to be, if you're going to focus on those two groups, the happy medium is perhaps 5 or 5:30. Unless we can do public comment at 6 o'clock, even though we've advertised 6 o'clock for public hearings, and we can just put public comment at the top of that agenda.
Ordinarily, in the perfect world, and you have 15 minutes, or 20 minutes or whatever of public comment, that's great, nobody's gonna get upset. But the minute you have an hour and a half of public comment, and the folks who came for the public hearing have to leave or whatever, then you're gonna run into your advertisement hasn't done what it was supposed to do, and
Yeah.
you're gonna end up with some sort of challenge to your zoning decision.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're at the point now, we need to, somebody make a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this is Mike. Could I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing what everyone else said, but I think in the past, the 15-minute or the comment period we had that was at 1:30, the clerk usually handled that, and there was one pro position allowed, one against position, and then a couple other speakers' time allotted, which I'm fine with that. And I think, me personally, there's a lot of elderly people that don't want to be out at night, that they might want to come and address the board about something in the afternoon. And I don't have a problem with that. And I think the chairman can certainly manage the time period for that very well. The other part, I think we still need to have a public comment period in the evening after work, when people that work during the day can't come at 1:30, so they have a right to speak to the board. But I heard several of the comments about verifying addresses and are you a citizen of the county? And I certainly agree with all of that. And one comment was made about phoning in during these public comment periods. I have a very difficult time hearing people when they call in. I think it's unfair to our clerk who's trying to keep minutes, to keep track of a phone conversation like that. And I think the alternative would be to offer to allow them to submit their comments in email form or in writing, so that we can make it part of the county board meeting record. And that way it's official and everybody knows what was said, and it takes the burden off of Madam Clerk to try and keep up with some phone conversation where the audio is not always that good. But that's my only comments, and I don't want to hold up the meeting.
Yes, sir, thank you. So, just for a record of clarification, everybody, I'm hearing now that we leave the 15 minutes at the beginning, but that stays there only for the first 2 or 3 that calls in, and everybody else is going to have to say, Madam Clerk's going to have to say, you've got to go to the end of the meeting or come back next week or next month.
That's how I understand.
I
That's
thought
how-
we were striking the 15-minute.
And then I've heard where it was to be struck completely.
Yeah.
So that's what we're hearing there now. So I'm opening the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
I ain't scared.
What's your motion? Which way you going?
I'll make a motion that we keep our 15 minutes beginning of the meeting as is. Madeline Clerk manages that. We have public comment at the end of our meeting. Chairman manages that. You're allotted 3 minutes. Just the way it's always been. You have to verify your address, that you're a citizen of Franklin County. No more phone-ins, and no restriction on age to speak to the board.
Mr. Chairman, also with that, in our prior policies, if they represent an organization, instead of 3 minutes, they can be allocated 5 minutes. Do you want to make that as part of it as well? Because that's the way we've done it in the past.
I will add to my motion that if you are representing an organization or a group, that you are allotted 5 minutes.
I'll second.
Does Does that organization have to be a recognized organization, or just not something that you reached up and pulled out of the?
I mean, how would we,
You can't discriminate it.
How would how would you establish a recognized organization versus one that's not?
You can't discriminate.
Clearly, there's gonna be some discretion by the chair. I would assume that if what we're saying is that people are gonna sign up ahead of time, well, I mean, is that not what we're saying?
I think, for
For
me,
15 minutes?
it just seems people can enter the boardroom and put their name on the sign-up sheet and speak.
Rather than an organization, could we call them a group?
Call them a what?
A group?
A group.
Because if there's 5 people signed up to speak, instead of having them all take 3 minutes, we could assign one to take 5.
yeah.
That right there, that, to me, when Mr. Cundiff was talking earlier about when his brother was chair, that's what happened then.
Yeah.
He said, y'all get together and one person can talk, if it's
Right.
all like-minded, then that makes sense to me. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's good there to do that.
So rather than call them an organization, we'll just say if there's a group on the same subject.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, can you read that motion?
So just, Chairman Thompson, to clarify, we're just making a motion on the public comment period of the board rules and procedures.
That's correct.
Okay, so I have, the motion made by Supervisor Ronald Mitchell to keep the 15 minutes at the 1:30 time period at the discretion of the clerk, and also include public comment at the end of the meeting at the discretion of the chairman, the time limit at the discretion of the chairman, with no phone call-ins and no restrictions, no time restrictions, sorry. No age restrictions.
Age restrictions.
Yeah.
That was my mistake. No age restrictions. With group representation allocated 5 minutes, and that was seconded by Supervisor Cundiff.
It hadn't been a second on it.
Yeah, Mr.
I didn't
Cunningham.
ask for a second yet.
And don't forget about verifying your address that you're a citizen in the county. That was part of my motion as well.
So just out of curiosity, how you gonna do that?
I mean, they give you an address, I guess you have to.
Well, I mean, if they live here in the county, if they live there, they should have their ID, should. But if they own property out,
What are you gonna accept as ID?
Yeah, I mean, the most I've seen, Mr. Chairman, is you get up, state your name and your address. Correct, Mr. Glenn?
Yeah, I've never seen anybody have to show ID to speak to the Board of Supervisors. But I
so
would say this.
we can open it up to people in California to come in to the
That's
board.
not, now, you know, it's not what I said.
Well, I mean, how do we,
Well, I think the first time the person speaks and says, I live on Main Street or whatever, and y'all kind of look at each other and go, what? Then you go check it. And then they show up at the second meeting and say, I live on Main Street. And you go, no, you don't. You know, we've checked and you don't live there. And if you let the person know before you stand up and embarrass them, you just tell them, the clerk or somebody tells them, you're not eligible to speak. You don't live where you say you live. I think we really want to avoid making a production of that.
was that in part of your motion that they had to sign up with the clerk?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could
When they
change it.
sign up, they can put down their address. It's just, I don't want Madeline to have to card them.
I have to provide a name and address. Do I amend my motion and say you just have to provide your name and address to do public comment? Madam Clerk, I'd like to amend my motion that you have to provide your name and address for public comment.
At the time of sign-in?
Yes.
And
We really haven't changed
according to our
anything.
own policy, if they're not a Franklin County resident, as long as they own property in Franklin County, they're eligible to speak before this board. So what I would encourage Madeline to do is go print you up a form, spreadsheet, and for name, address, and have a question. Property owner, Franklin County property owner, if you're not a Franklin County resident, so they can check off so that if someone comes up and challenges, like we did have a few months back where a citizen challenged a
He
speaker.
challenged it right here in the meeting.
Yeah, you have it, and if we want to go back and confirm it, we can confirm it and just let him know, hey, you're disqualified as a future speaker. So,
Madam Clerk, will you read the motion, please?
So I have, on the motion made by Supervisor Ronald Mitchell to keep the 15-minute time allocated for public comment at the 1:30 time period at the discretion of the clerk, and also keep the public comment at the end of the meeting at the discretion of the chairman. No phone call-ins, no age restrictions, with group representation able to be allocated 5 minutes. All speakers to provide their address or property they own within Franklin County at the time of sign-in.
It sounds
Okay.
good. So really, we haven't changed anything too much. We haven't changed too much at all, really.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Are we ready for the question, or you got something else to say? Madam Clerk, if you'll do a roll call on this, please.
Supervisor Ronald Mitchell.
Yes.
Supervisor Smith.
No.
Supervisor Leland Mitchell.
No.
Supervisor Cundiff.
Yes.
Supervisor Carter.
Yes.
Supervisor Tatum.
no.
Chairman Thompson.
No.
The motion fails. 4-3 vote.
All right, in lieu of the motion, do we have an amended motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that in regard to the public comment portion of our meeting, that we suspend the 15 minutes that we previously have allocated at the beginning of our meeting and move that, as well as all other public comment, to the end of our meeting, which would follow public hearings.
And everything else stay the same?
As far as requirements, the same requirements that were made in the prior motion, where they have to show address and property ownership, would be in the same motion. I know that, I think it's all going to fall back to the chairman and the way that the meeting is flowing and the agenda that we have. I don't want to take too much of the chairman's ability to move it around as needed. So I just like to take it away from the beginning of the meeting and move it to the end of the meeting.
Do we have a second? We have a second on Mr. Tatum's motion. No second, we still have to take a vote. Madam Clerk, let's do a roll call.
Okay, can we do a discussion first?
Yes, sir.
So what you're saying is we do away with the 15 minutes?
We do away with the 15 minutes at the start of the meeting, and
Right.
we just move all the public comment to one, just have one public comment session and move it to the end so that people that are working can have time to get off work and come for the meeting.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
No, that's fine. No, thank you. That's the way I understand it. Everything, nothing's changed other than it's all at the end of the meeting and not at the beginning. Does that change anything? Do we get a second? Madam Clerk, if you'll do a roll call.
Mr. Gwynn, do we just proceed and do a roll call? Supervisor Ronald Mitchell.
No.
Was that a no?
No.
Thank you. Supervisor Smith.
No.
Supervisor Leland Mitchell,
No.
Supervisor Cundiff,
No.
Supervisor Carter,
No.
Supervisor Tatum,
Yes.
Chairman Thompson.
Yes. Still pass.
Okay, so that motion also is a 5-2.
Let me take a whack at this, Mr. Chair. May I?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Process of elimination here, right? I would make a motion that we eliminate the 15-minute time period, that language, and that we have a public comment period at 5:30 prior to the public hearings. And all the other items that were listed in the first motion, Madeline, about age restriction and so forth would stand. And I'm saying 5:30 in my motion because, if I may ask Mr. Gwynn a question, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Gwynn, we can't mess with that 6 o'clock time? We can't put public comment at 6 o'clock? I mean, I think what you're saying is if it's an hour and a half of public comment, then we're gonna maybe have challenges about the advertisement.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when we've advertised it.
Okay, I'm gonna stick to my,
Other than advertising it for 6, we don't have any reason to be at 6, do we?
We can change it to 6:15.
Right.
okay, all right, so you've got my motion with public comment for 5:30. And I probably should do this as a second motion, Mr. Chairman, but I do think we could move the public hearings to 6:30 for advertisement purposes, to give us an hour for public comment if we change it that way.
So then, are you saying that what we don't get done at 5:30 to 6:30, then we're gonna come back at the end? We have to.
Why do you have to? You would proceed with public comment till you're done.
I don't know, I don't
As
understand.
it stands now, if we have a public hearing set at 6 o'clock and we finish all our other work at 4 o'clock, we have to come back at 6 o'clock. So there's no real difference, what you're saying.
But if we advertise them at 6:30, we can't have them earlier.
No, we cannot.
That's all right.
So if there's no public comment, we could stay here for an hour twiddling our thumbs until 6:30.
Correct. But you could do that if you finished early, too. I know that
The
hasn't
only-
happened very often, but you could.
Well, Mr. Chairman, may I reword
Yes.
my proposed motion? I don't know if I'm following parliamentary procedure on that or not, Mr. Gwynn.
At this point,
At this point, I
the practicality of it is, Ms. Smith, we really need to,
figure this out.
yeah. And I wouldn't preempt you for at all, but I would make this suggestion. Would it help if we brought in a whiteboard or a chalkboard or something and we just started writing up there what everybody could agree on?
Let me take a whack at this. Let me take a whack at this, if I may. All right, so I make a motion that we strike the 15-minute time limit and restriction that's currently in the verbiage, and that we schedule public comment at the conclusion of our business, of our 1:30 business meeting. That's the motion, with the other caveats in place that were so stated. That's the motion. That way, there's an expectation that we will have public comment as part of our business meeting, and we will wrap it up prior to the 6 o'clock public hearings. There you go.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Yes, sir, please.
So I'm listening to what Supervisor Smith has proposed. As part of that, are we also still going to open up for public comments at the end of our meeting after the public hearings, at the end of the night?
That's not part of my motion, Mr. Carter. You can amend the motion
Okay.
if you wish. There you go, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
All right, I have a motion here. Madam Clerk, if you will read the motion back, please.
Right now I have, on the motion made by Supervisor Smith, she has suggested that we eliminate the 15-minute time period verbiage within the public hearing section of the board rules and procedures and schedule public comment following the 1:30 business meeting prior to public hearings. With no phone calls, no age restrictions, and a group representation is able to be allocated 5 minutes. The speakers must provide their address or property owned in Franklin County at the time of sign-in.
That's correct.
All right, I've got a question for the board. If we have, just pick a number, 15 people that come up to do it, and we don't get through by the 6 o'clock or 6:30, a slotted time to do the public hearings, then we've got to come back in to let those folks finish. We would have to let them finish, the people that have signed up for public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that any continuance be under the discretion of the chair.
Any other comments?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I still like to insist that we have it 15 minutes at the first of the meeting for people to speak.
All right, do we have a second for Ms. Smith's motion? With no second, Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Supervisor Ronald Mitchell.
No.
Supervisor Smith.
Yes.
Supervisor Leland Mitchell.
No.
Supervisor Cundiff.
No.
Supervisor Carter.
Yes.
Supervisor Tatum.
Yes.
Chairman Thompson.
No.
That motion fails.
May I make well, I know this is the organizational meeting. I was wondering if we could, there's no way to defer this, Mr. Gwynn, until our January meeting. And could we just have a continuance on the 2020 policy and defer this and get board feedback in writing and come to some consensus between now and then, Mr. Chairman?
I have no problem if that's a consensus of the board. What I was going to suggest that we take a 10-minute break, walk around a minute and think about it, and then come back and see what we can do. How do you think about that?
I think it's wonderful.
Huh?
I think it'd be wonderful.
Let's take a 10-minute break and come back and then.
I'll even second that motion.
Supervisor Carter, I'm going to put you on mute for those 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
If it, even if it were me, somebody told me. I'm not far.
I understand what you're saying.
But I wouldn't do it, Ronnie.
Oh, I gotta stand up.
Yeah. I'm getting you.
Everybody's gone.
This is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. Oh.
Where's my mask?
No, it's too late, you're still the chair.
Back it out now, pal.
No, the pressure on us is, it's not talking to the system.
What the hell are you guys doing?
Still on.
I'd suggest shutting down the system and putting it back on.
We got a
This is the problem.
Yeah, that's cool. It's going, so it's fine.
If we give you a few more extra minutes, we can reboot the whole thing and see what happens. That has no ideas, all I doubt is he does, this is, it's trying to. I wish there was something I could do about it, but I don't
with the board's, with the rest of the board's permission, I know that it was asked that we can table it, but if we can get this behind us, I want to try to do that, to get that. So I'm gonna try it this way, and if that doesn't work, then we'll go to Plan B. I don't know what that is yet, but we'll go to Plan B if that doesn't work. But let's, Madam Clerk, if you will, keep a list going. And let's take a list of what you want to see happen. One thing, and we'll do it one at a time. All right, now the first thing that we want to see, that we need to talk about is, I think everybody's in agreement that we keep it for the 3-minute comment, correct?
Repeat your question, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
We're gonna do these, we're gonna take these like the attorney suggested and do like a whiteboard and do it one at a time. All right, so everybody wants to keep the comment for 3 minutes, correct?
And 5 minutes if they represent a group.
Okay, so we got that. And then if it's a group of 5 or more and they choose to let one person speak for them, they can do how long?
5 minutes.
5 minutes for that group.
That's the way it's always been, if I'm not mistaken, 5 minutes.
Everybody okay with that? There's 2 people I hadn't seen. Okay, there's, everybody okay with that? All right, what's next?
I guess the first public comment at the beginning of the meeting.
Huh? All right, do you want to keep, is that what you're saying? The public comment for 15-minute time slot at the very beginning of the meeting, at the 1:30?
Yes.
Yes.
There's where we disagree, y'all. That's one of the disagreements. All right, do you want to see the 15 minutes at 5:30? As it was 5 or 5:30?
I'm okay with that too.
We're scratching that?
No, I'm okay with that too.
I want it to be, as long as it's after 5 o'clock, that's all I really care about.
All right. And does everybody agree with keeping the public comment, that everybody doesn't get either at the 1:30 or the 5:30 at the end of the meeting?
If they can't get
Whatever
in-
time that is, at the end of the public comment, the public hearings that we might have from planning and zoning or anything, it has to be at the end of that.
Yes, if they don't get in at the 1:30, they have to do it at the 5:30. I'm good with that.
You said at the end of the meeting, you said 5.
Yeah, I think we need to clarify that.
All right, I said that a while ago now. Do you want to have the public comment at 1:30? And it was some yeses and some nos. And then I said at 5:30, and there was some yeses and nos. And then I said at the very end of the meeting, I can't put a time on there because we don't know when the time is. And I'm saying everybody's shaking their head yes for that, because we've got to make sure that everybody gets their 3 minutes. Correct?
You're talking about at the first of the meeting, 15 minutes, if they can't make it then go to public comment at the end of the meeting, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll drink to that.
Yeah,
But you're saying at 5:30 versus after public hearings?
Well, that was one of the times at 5:30.
Okay, okay.
I mean, in other words, to me, the way I'm understanding this, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's from 1:30 to 1:45, or if it's from 5:30 till 6, I mean, it's gonna be limited on the time. Because at such and such a time, we've got to advertise that we're going back into having the public hearings and things. That's got to be advertised, right?
Yeah, you have to have public hearings and advertisement.
So you almost have to have your public comment at the very end of the meeting, because you don't know how many public comments there's going to be.
If you don't have any public comments, then you go home.
You can go home.
But we've got to give everybody time for their 3 minutes.
mean, I think they should be at the end of the meeting.
Huh?
I think they should be at the end of the meeting, public comment.
All right, is there anything that I haven't covered now? We've already established that there's no age limit. We've already established that there's no telephone call in. We've already established that they need to be, at their word, live in the county, own property in the county.
There was a suggestion regarding emails being submitted and added to the record.
Will you say that?
There was a suggestion about emails being submitted and added to the record as public comment.
Mr. Carter did that. That was that they could send an email, Madam Clerk could read it, and it could be put in as a record.
And she really wouldn't even have to read it, she could just put it in the record.
Just put it in there without reading it. Okay. Is that correct, Mr. Carter?
I couldn't hear what the attorney said, but yes, my comment was they could email or handwrite something and send it in to Madam Clerk, and we could make that part of the permanent record versus the phone call.
Just want to make sure everybody was in agreement on that, though.
All right, is there anything that has not been covered?
What about the 15-minute time allocation? Did you cover that?
That, we talked about the 15-minute time allocation, that, when that was gonna be, either at 1:30 to 1:45, or after we get through with the pledge and everything, if it was gonna be at 5:30, or if everything was gonna be at the end of the meeting.
And there was no consensus on that.
No consensus on that's the three things where we're off at, correct?
It did appear that there was consensus that whatever is left after the 15 minutes be at the end of the meeting.
All right, now my question, only for a point of clarification for the rest of the board, is that if you choose to pick the 15-minute slot at 1:30 or 1:35 at the beginning or at 5:30, that's pretty much gonna have to be on a first come, first served basis. Whoever calls in, and Madam Clerk times that on that, and then whoever after that, those slots are picked, then they're gonna have to go to the end of the meeting or not get to do it, and that is sufficient, and that covers our basis legally, correct?
Yes.
The only other option, Mr. Chairman, is if we were to move public hearings to 6:30 versus 6 o'clock. But, there may be excess time there, depending upon amount of public comment.
Mr. Chairman,
Well, let me ask the question, though, with Ms. Smith on that. If we start putting a time limit there, then are we not? How do we do that? We're still going to have to give people a chance that doesn't speak to come it back at the very end of the meeting. So are we throwing a monkey wrench in there that we don't have to, or?
Well, to clarify, I was in support of the 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. And then if you didn't get to speak then, and the business meeting proceeded, then we would pick up any additional public comment from 5:30 to 6:30. That would accommodate people that are working. It would accommodate our elderly constituents that don't want to drive in the evening hours and coming out perhaps at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I'm trying to find some balance for those late hours. We know what those late hours are. I was just telling the chairman, I'm not sure that I would get dressed and come down here at 8:30 at night to offer public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I guess my feeling on this is I don't see the need of having the two public comments time periods, one at the beginning and one at the end. I'd rather see that the whole thing condensed and put at a set time near the, after 5:30 time frame. But if we can't, I can live with keeping the 15 minutes at the beginning, like we have been doing, and then having our public comment time from 5:30 to 6:30. I can live with that.
Anybody else? Okay, everybody has heard where we're at. Everything seems to be in agreement with everything but the 15 minutes at the beginning, or the hour in the middle, and then all of the fallout or what's left over goes at the end of the meeting. We're there. All right, somebody needs to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue the 15 minutes at the beginning and allow 15 minutes, and the people that sign up first be allowed to go first. And then what we carry over, go back to our 6 o'clock time for late public hearing.
In other words, leaving it the way we've been doing it.
It's worked for a long time.
Well, I'll agree with Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Chairman. I'll agree with Mr. Mitchell.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you will read the motion back, please.
Okay, to clarify, what Supervisor Leland Mitchell has suggested is that we keep the 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, at the
Yes.
1:30 meeting, with first come, first serve. So each speaker would get 3 minutes, up to 15 minutes at 1:30. With the continuation, if we have more speakers, to have a public comment period at the end of the meeting? Is that what you wanted? Or-
Yes, that's the way we've worked it, and
At the-
it's, because we don't always get back here in time. So if we set a 6 o'clock or thereafter, I think that's fine.
Okay, so, with the continuation of public comment, if there are more people at the end of the meeting, with the time limit at the discretion of the chairman?
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
Any more comment? More questions? Madam Clerk, if you do a roll call.
Supervisor Ronald Mitchell.
I'm sorry, but do you mind repeating it one more time? 'Cause
So what I have is, on the motion made by Supervisor Leland Mitchell to keep public comments for 15 minutes at the 1:30 business meeting with first come, first serve, each citizen allowed 3 minutes per person, with the carryover, if there being more speakers, to continue at the end of the board meeting with the time limit at the discretion of the chairman.
Can I seek a point of clarification?
Yes.
When you say at the end of the business meeting, are you talking about the afternoon business meeting or the public hearings?
Talking about the end of public comment.
Comments.
At the end of public comment.
Public hearings.
Public hearing, then goes to public comment.
After public hearing?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
The public hearing still stays at 6 o'clock, right, Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
And then at the end of that, it goes into public comment.
Thank you.
Basically,
Nothing's changed.
modify the language of our rules to fit what we've been doing.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Okay? Does that change anybody?
Good.
Madam?
Supervisor Ronald Mitchell.
Yes.
Supervisor Smith.
No.
Supervisor Leland Mitchell.
Yes.
Supervisor Cundiff.
Yes.
Supervisor Carter.
Yes.
Supervisor Tatum.
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman Thompson.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Good job, guys.
Praise the Lord, we done it again.
We went a long
Please
way
tell me
just
we're
to
done.
get Jim to redo.
Gosh.
Did we really?
That was all I was asking. Was
All
why
right,
that
now,
language-
we got any board appointments? I think we got most of those taken care of at the last one, but I think we've got to confirm them this time. On the Social Services Board, Current person holding that position is Tommy Cundiff. I'll open the floors up for nominations there.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Cundiff.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, that was hard for me to hear.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Tommy Cundiff for the Social Services Board.
Seconded by Supervisor Carter.
Any more nominations? Floor is closed. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's carried.
Thank y'all.
All right, on the TLAC board, Mrs. Smith is the board member now. I will open the floor for any nominations for the TLAC board.
I make the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mrs. Smith to continue in that position.
I'll second.
Y'all are so good at doing that.
All right, any other nominations? I'll close the floor. All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, board appointments for the West Piedmont Planning District Commission. Mr. Tatum and Mr. Leland Mitchell is on there now. I'll open the floor for, Madam Clerk, are you giving me the evil eye? You want it done one at a time or both of them
I
together?
think it was already
Chairman
done.
Thompson, we made those those appointments at the December 15th meeting.
And we don't have to verify them?
Correct, sorry, that was when I presented it that way, I just wanted you to see those were board appointments.
Okay, okay. All right, so we're done.
So you should be done.
All right. So now, with
With
all
that
of that,
portion.
I'll go into any other matters by supervisors. Mr. Tatum?
Just hope 2021 is,
We've got to be better at it.
I don't want to say it, which I'm just, we just got to.
Mr. Carter?
Yes, sir.
Any other matters by supervisors?
No, sir, I don't have anything else.
Mr. Cundiff? Coming right on down.
No, sir. I just like,
Yes, I have one. Madam Clerk and myself received a request from a lady that's turning 100 years old. And at the next board meeting, I would like to recognize her. And if she's able, invite her to come.
Please do.
And it will be her birthday technically tomorrow. So I will, yes.
Okay, I'll try to call her tomorrow.
That's great.
Tell her to bring her recipe for success. I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
For January, me and Mr. Chairman, I'd like to get on the agenda for me and Mr. Tatum to be able to give an update on our Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Our last meeting was a really good one, and we scheduled another one next Thursday, I believe, so we can have one more before our January meeting. So I would really encourage the board to keep supporting Mr. Tatum and myself as we're getting there. We're figuring out how to maneuver through some of the things, and we've got some ideas brewing, and we're really excited to talk to everyone about it. And I think the more effort we put into this, the more we're going to bring our communities together and try to get rid of this divide that we have in the county.
How much time do you think you need?
5-10 minutes tops.
Can we-
Just kind of want to let you know what
10 minutes?
route we're going. Just what route we're
Can we
going.
do 10 minutes on the agenda for the update?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you ask for a consensus?
All those in favor, nod your head. Is that what you wanted?
Thank you. 10 minutes max, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
As staff, Mr. Whitlow, you got any comments?
Mr. Chairman, none other
Better
than.
make it quick.
Yeah, other than January 19th kicks off the budget season for the board. And so I will be working with staff The afternoon of the January 19th board meeting is a regular board meeting. We will want to hold a portion of that meeting to review the capital improvement plan, so we plan to bring that to you at your January 19th meeting. For the interest of time, after that, we will have several dates before you for February and March in terms of budget work sessions for the board as possibilities, and with a goal, again, of presenting a county budget on March the 16th and the school budget on March the 16th. Goal of working through further budget work sessions, possibly with a budget public hearing for April 20th and budget adoption at the end of April. But of course, that's very flexible, especially with the state budget and so forth, but we want to kick that off pretty strong and earnest on January 19th. And we're working hard, and we'll bring the capital plan to you on January the 19th.
Anyone else, any other staff member got something we need to come to our attention? The only other thing that I've got is I want staff, and the rest of the board can agree or disagree, but I'd like for staff to keep in mind the housing survey that we did, and we need to do something to get that out to the public somehow or another as quick as possible. How about the rest of y'all? Y'all feel?
I agree, Mr. Chairman, and I would just add that I would remind the board that we're going to host a housing summit. We had been targeting January this month for that, but with the COVID restrictions, I think that's going to preclude that. So I've been working with Mr. Sandy and Mr. Whitlow to really try to think, optimistically when we can have an in-person housing summit, and I think that'll be a really good next step. But the dissemination to the public, I think, is very necessary.
I think maybe if we can get an update in our next meeting. So I guess what I'm saying, and don't want y'all to get mad at me, but I don't want to do nothing to let this drop, because I think it's.
Trust me.
You don't want to
do what? I didn't catch
anything to let this drop, to keep this out there. Let's keep it going and get the public involved and let everybody know where we're at. That's for moving it forward, and that's it. Thank y'all again for your time today and everything that happened, for your confidence, and I appreciate it. Anything else? All right,
Update on
Frank,
traditional medicinals this coming meeting?
say that again?
Update on traditional.
We can, Mr. Mitchell will get you an update.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
There is, Mr. Chairman, on the agenda, a closed meeting item this evening.
Franklin County Board of Supervisors will enter into a motion of a closed meeting in accordance with Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3, discussion of consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, and A29, discussion of the terms of a public contract where discussion in public would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the county in regards to a potential boundary adjustment with the neighboring county of the Code of Virginia as amended. Need a motion, please?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Supervisor Ronald Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith,
Yes.
Supervisor Leland Mitchell,
Yes.
Supervisor Cundiff,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Tatum,
Yes.
and Chairman Thompson.
Yes. Can we do that here, right in here, everybody? And so Mike can stay and hear what's going on. That'd be okay? Thank
Good
you.
idea.